Richard Breakiron's Director of Strategic Initiatives at Commvault. Richard, it's great to see you again. What are you seeing the organizations that are successfully navigating the cyber landscape right now in the federal government doing versus the ones that are struggling?
So the key things that I see all the time that are the leaders that are willing to understand AI as a tool. It's not going to go away, and they're embracing the fact that it has to be worked with. And they are also recognizing it's a risk. It's a change. Change always brings risk. But okay, I always talk about it in people, process, and technology. So here's the new technology. How's the impact on my business process, and how's the impact with my people? How do I help my workforce get good at it? How do I help them learn about it just for their own personal lives even too? And then from a business process perspective, and this is the part that I think they really need to focus on, is how do I ensure that I integrate a brand new technology while keeping an eye on the risk? And I think so often we in an organization deploy a new technology and we fire and we forget. And in new technology, you need to implement in crawl, walk, run. You need to follow up with observe, orient, decide, act. Okay, how did that first deployment go? Did it get me where I want? Okay, it did. Okay, what's the next phase? And so deployments, especially when it's a novel, when it really does have a far-reaching effect on scale and volume and velocity, you gotta approach it in steps and phases, but you can't be slow about it either, because the adversary is not going to be slow at all.
I think it's noteworthy that that list of questions that you proposed are similar questions that I imagine security people ask about other technologies that have been introduced over time. I didn't hear anything there that needed to be specific to implementation of AI.
No, and that's the point I guess I come back with. AI is a tool, and people forget that it's a tool. And what makes it a little bit unique is that it's a technology that is a virtual technology. So let's look at a hammer and an automatic nailer. So you have a framer that's used to the hammer and nail, and now you give him a pneumatic gun. You now might make him really effective and efficient with a little bit of training. It's in a physical, it's got a left and right boundary. It doesn't exceed the one house you have him on. But now you give your work staff an AI tool. And that AI tool isn't limited all of a sudden to your agency. It really has an impact. I know I did a presentation. I had to go down and defend a decision that we were going to maintain cyber control at Fort Hood at the enterprise and at the network level, and that the local post commander, the 3-star down there, said, no, I'm going to own that. I'm going to own the network. And I said, so, sir, all due respect, you can own the force that patrols that fence boundary, you can own the MPs that defend this, and you can own the forces here. But one bad decision you make on a virtual enterprise network can infect the entire army. And I said, you have to understand that dynamic. And I think that's the piece that leaders just need to embrace. Okay, it's got a lot of ramifications. Let's make sure we manage it. Again, the crawl, walk, run, the one I always love, or you can run, fall, bleed.
What is the implication for that uniqueness on what the risk framework looks like? Is it the same now as other new technologies in the past, or does that uniqueness mean that the risk landscape looks different for these organizations?
So the risk framework, that's a great question, by the way. The risk framework is very similar. So you cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. You've got a good framework. Your controls, I don't care if they're NIST, I don't care if they're based on FedRAMP, I don't care if they're CMMC. Those solid controls are not balls and chain to begin with. They are a strategic advantage. Okay, so now you introduce AI, it still has those characteristics of control, of identity management, of who gets access to what information. How much control do you give the agent? So remember, AI has an agentic. They're like an employee. How much left and right boundary do I give them? Where do I stop what they can and cannot do? Notice, quite frankly, the big argument that was going on with the Pentagon and Anthropic was over this issue. When do we say a human has to be always involved, and when is it okay to let the agent work on their behalf. And the scenario we just did with our panel today, you've got red gumballs to say don't let somebody on the flight. You've got a green gumball saying, hey, they meet the TSA standard, and then you got the yellow ones. I want the machine to go ahead and do the red and the greens, because we've got a pattern and somebody's given the AI agent the left and right. When they come up with the yellow boundary, and the example I always give is a person who's never flown and doesn't have a social security number. Well, that's a red. And you go, well, in this case, it's a baby with their mother. They're 9 months old.
Yeah.
They've never flown before, and they don't have a social security number. So these are the things I think about from an AI perspective, is making sure the framework is very similar, the architecture is similar. And the only other piece that's really different from most even virtual technologies and tools, AI can do some things of creating a hallucination, as it's described. It can create a context of its own because it thinks that's what you want. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a bad way. And so we're going to have to figure that out. And it's even like with cryptology now, with the quantum coming around the way. We're going to have to figure out new algorithms.
We have about 30 seconds left. You told me before we started that you're looking for the CISO of the year. What is behind that?
Oh, well, thank you for doing that, because so Time Magazine and Commvault are looking for the CISO of the year, the hidden warriors within our modernization efforts. These are the people that are always taking the slings and arrows for when it goes wrong and not being credited for all the great work they do to protect our operational readiness. So we're looking to get nominees by June 20th, and then we're going to have them reviewed, and an announcement will be made in Time Magazine in September. So that's what this is about. We're looking for your nominations. We want who you know from personal experience has been an outstanding CISO, or what that CISO represents to your organization is what we're looking for.